Okay, firstly, what is sterilization? Sterilization is the complete destruction or elimination of all viable organisms, including spores, in or on an object being sterilized. Sterilization procedures involve the use of physical, irradiation, or chemical methods. Secondly, what is disinfection? Disinfection is the elimination only of pathogenic organisms, but not their spores. And lastly, what is cleaning? Cleaning is the removal of organic materials, dust, which interfere with disinfection and sterilization. It is done using soap, detergent, and water. In this slide, we're going to talk about resistance of microorganisms. As shown in the chart below, the descending order of resistance of microorganisms to sterilization and disinfection is as follows. Prions are the most resistant forms of living organisms, followed by spores, then mycobacteria, then small non-enveloped virus like polio, followed by fungi, and large non-enveloped virus like adenovirus, then vegetative bacteria, and lastly lipid enveloped virus like HPV and HIV. What other methods of sterilization and disinfection? There are two methods of sterilization and disinfection, which are physical and chemical methods. Under the physical, we have heat, incineration, irradiation, and filtration. But firstly, we're going to talk about heat. Heat is the most important and widely used method. It is the safest, it is efficient, and is a very cheap method. There are two categories of heat. One being moist heat. Moist heat acts by coagulation and denaturation of microorganisms. Moist heat at 100 degrees Celsius, which is boiling point at atmospheric pressure for 10 minutes, will kill non-spore formation pathogenic microbes. On the other hand, heat above 100 degrees Celsius, also called autoclaving, allows you to kill the microorganisms in 15 minutes under 121 degrees Celsius, or at 3 to 6 minutes under 134 degrees Celsius. Advantages of steam sterilization, autoclave. It acts by coagulation, liberation of latent heat. It is non-toxic. It is inexpensive. While on the other hand, the disadvantage of autoclave is it's not used for heat-sensitive items. It is not used for powder, mineral oil, and waxes. How do we monitor this specific sterilization process? Firstly, we have physical monitoring, which is observation of sterilizer function, such as temperature, pressure, and time. Secondly, we have the chemical monitoring. It describes the color change of indicators. And lastly, we have biological monitoring. It is done at least weekly using spores which are exposed to sterilization process and when no growth is obtained when cultured in broth. Okay, second type of heat is dry heat. Dry heat, or also called hot air oven, is done by oxidation. For example, under 160 degrees of Celsius of heat for 2 hours, or 180 degrees Celsius for 1 hour. They are mostly used for glassware and metals. Secondly, under physical method, we have incineration. Incineration burns organisms and physically destroys them. It is a method used for needles, glassware, direct flame for loops, forceps for hospital waste disposal. Advantages of dry heat sterilization are low corrosiveness, low costs, and it's used for waterless oil, lubricants, waxes, and powder. On the other hand, the disadvantage of dry heat sterilization is long sterilization time. It damages rubber and it has low penetrability. The third method under a physical method is irradiation. Irradiation usually destroys or distorts nucleic acid. For example, gamma irradiation and beta rays. And lastly, under physical method, we have filtration. It involves the physical removal of all microorganisms in a liquid or gas form, and is especially important to sterilize solutions which would be denatured by heat. A good example is millipore filters, which are used for sterilization of fluid and antibiotics. These filters are made of cellulose acetate, being rapid and don't absorb substance and don't affect the filtrate. The second example is a high efficiency particulate air, also called HEPA filter, is used for filtration of air of operating theaters, laminar flow, and dog factories. Okay, the second method of sterilization and disinfection, which is chemical for chemical and gas. Under chemical and gas, we have ethylene oxide and gas plasma. Firstly, ethylene oxide is a toxic chemical that kills all forms of life. It is used to sterilize heat-sensitive devices. And being toxic, ethylene oxide is expensive and is used only for a limited time. On the other hand, gas plasma is a highly ionized gas. In one type is hydrogen peroxide vapor, and its byproducts are water and oxygen, which is considered an advantage. In the second type, peractic vapor phase is used, which is less damaging than the first. Gas plasma is used to sterilize heat-sensitive medical devices. It is safe for the environment and healthcare workers.